The kettle had been whistling for about 3 minutes before I noticed it. That's the kind of night it was. The kind where your brain just drifts. I was sitting at the kitchen table of a house I'd never been to before, in a neighborhood I'd found only by following a series of increasingly panicked voice messages from my college roommate's older brother. His name was Daniel. He'd left me 6 messages. The last one just said, "Please." I turned off the kettle. He was in the next room, sitting on the edge of his couch like he was afraid to commit to it fully. Late 30s, maybe. Dark circles that suggested this wasn't his first bad week. He had the kind of face that was probably very charming when it wasn't gray with anxiety, and he was holding his own forearm with his other hand like he could physically keep himself together that way. I set my bag down on the coffee table and said, "Okay, tell me what happened." He'd been managing his B12 injections on his own for about 4 months. His doctor had shown him once, his girlfriend had shown him once, and then his girlfriend had moved to Portland and his doctor had retired, and somewhere in the middle of all that, he'd just stopped. Told himself he'd figure it out. Classic. "I have everything," he said, gesturing to a neat little arrangement on the side table. Vial, syringes still in packaging, alcohol swabs. He'd laid them out like he was preparing for surgery. Every time I get to the part where I actually have to do it, He made a gesture with his hand, like something flying away. "Your brain evacuates," I said. "My brain evacuates," he agreed, and for just a second, the ghost of a smile crossed his face. That's the thing about needle anxiety that most people don't understand. It's rarely about pain. Most people, if you ask them, can't even fully explain what they're afraid of. It's something more primal than pain. It's the anticipation, the moment of waiting for it, the way your body insists that a sharp thing coming toward you is a threat, even when your rational mind knows better. The mind and the nervous system are not always on speaking terms. I've seen grown men who've run marathons go completely pale at the sight of a 22-gauge needle. I've seen elderly women who've had surgery 3 times hold out their arm without blinking. It's not about toughness. It's just wiring. "You've been symptomatic?" I asked. He nodded. "Fatigue," he said. Pins and needles in his fingers. A kind of mental fog that had been making work difficult. All textbook B12 deficiency, and all entirely manageable, if he'd just been getting his injections. I pulled on my gloves. There's something I've always liked about that moment. The snap of latex, or nitrile if you're being careful about allergies, which I always ask about first. It's like a small ceremony, a shift in register. This is the part where I'm the professional and you're in good hands. People relax slightly when they hear that sound, even if they don't know why. "Are you allergic to latex?" I asked. "No." "Good. Roll up your sleeve. Not that one, the other one. Left arm. We'll do the deltoid." The deltoid is a beautiful muscle for intramuscular injections when you know what you're doing. You find the acromion, that bony point at the top of the shoulder, and you come down about 3 finger widths, right into the middle of that inverted triangle of muscle. It's well vascularized, it absorbs quickly, and for most adults with a reasonable amount of muscle mass, it's genuinely one of the more comfortable sites. The key is relaxation. A tense muscle hurts. A relaxed muscle barely registers. "Let your arm hang loose," I said. "Don't hold it up. Just let it fall." "It's falling." "It's not falling. You're holding it at a very polite angle." He laughed, surprised, I think, by the fact that he could. And in that moment of laughing, his shoulder dropped. His arm went soft. That's the trick, honestly. You can tell someone to relax all you want and it does nothing. Make them laugh and their body does it automatically. I cleaned the site with an alcohol swab, Circular motion, outward. Let it dry. This part matters more than people think. Injecting through wet alcohol stings, and stinging is exactly what we're trying to avoid. Take a slow breath in, I said, and I watched his chest rise. And out, I said, and on the exhale, smooth, confident, a 23 gauge at 90 degrees, I went in. He blinked. That was it. That was his entire reaction, just a blink. I aspirated briefly. A habit, a reflex, something that's been debated in clinical literature, but that I do anyway, because it was how I was taught, and old habits from good teachers die hard. And then I pressed the plunger, slowly, steadily. Not fast, never fast. The medication needs a moment to settle into the tissue. You rush it and you get pressure, and pressure becomes pain, and pain becomes a patient who never wants to do this again. I withdrew the needle at the same angle I'd entered, clean. Pressed a small piece of gauze to the site without rubbing. Rubbing disperses the medication unevenly and can cause irritation. Just gentle pressure, a few seconds. Done. That's it, he said. That's it. He looked at his shoulder like it had betrayed him by not being worse. I've been avoiding that for 4 months. 4 months, I confirmed, pulling off my gloves. Your nervous system owes you an apology. I stayed a little longer than I needed to. I showed him the technique on a practice pad I carry, a small square of foam that lets people get the feel of the angle, the pressure, the motion of the plunger. I showed him how to check the expiration on his vials, how to store them properly, how to dispose of sharps safely. He had an old coffee can he'd been using as a sharps container, which is actually not terrible in a pinch, though a proper sharps container is better and usually available at any pharmacy for just a few dollars. I also mentioned, because his symptoms had been going on long enough that it was worth saying, that B12 deficiency, if it's been significant for a while, can take time to fully resolve even once you're back on track. The neurological symptoms especially, the pins and needles, the fog, those can linger for weeks, sometimes a couple of months. It doesn't mean the treatment isn't working. It means the body is patient in its own way, healing at its own pace, and you have to be patient with it. He walked me to the door. The neighborhood was quiet, that specific late-night quiet that feels like the whole world has agreed to pause for a moment. I don't know how to thank you, he said. You already did, I said. You called. He looked like he wanted to say something else. There was a beat, one of those small, suspended moments that don't mean anything and somehow mean everything. And then I smiled and walked down the steps toward my car. Behind me, I heard the door close softly. I sat in the driver's seat for a moment before starting the engine. The gloves were in my bag. The bag was on the passenger seat. The street was still and amber-lit and very quiet. Sometimes I think the most intimate thing one person can do for another is simply show up when they're afraid and say, I've got you. You don't have to be brave right now. I'll be brave enough for both of us. The needle is just a needle. It's the hand holding it that matters.